Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 66.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards. We've been talking about marketing strategy over the past few months, and one of the tactics or areas where attention is being drawn currently is Instagram. So I bring on Dr. Crecio. He talks about a lot of the successes he's had with Instagram over the last year, how it's driving new practice members into his practice, building credibility, authority, expertise, and even heading around town and people recognizing him at the grocery store and in the Starbucks and everywhere else he goes. So he's going to share with you his tips and tricks and strategies to get the best out of Instagram and for you to get the best in your practice. Crecio, welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors.
Always glad to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And this is a great episode for a bunch of different reasons. And I'll pre-frame some of that for our guests. In the previous episode, Mike and I were talking about marketing strategy and really kind of reintroducing this larger picture blueprint. And we talked about how tactics can change. And I knew you and I were going to talk about Instagram coming up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's a nice segue because we think Instagram is great. There's lots of great things about it. You're going to talk about these things today. You're going to talk about some of the strategies that we can use and what you're trying to do on Instagram. At the same time, it's important to remember that Instagram is a tactic in the sense that in 5 years, Instagram could not exist, but the principles of marketing still exist. And I think a lot of people, especially chiropractors, get caught up in the next shiny penny and the next shiny penny. And, it's like Instagram today, 5 years ago, what was it, Crecio? Ming?
I think there's only one human being that ever thought that was going to be a thing.
So we're talking about Instagram today and, give us a bit of background, how you came into using Instagram and, what your experience has been. And then we can break that down and put this into context and give people some action steps.
Sure. So you're right. Instagram, Schminstagram, it doesn't matter. What matters is where the attention of the people that you're trying to capture is. And there's a lot of attention. In fact, more and more attention. Mark Zuckerberg's not an idiot. He didn't buy, Instagram 7 years ago for $1 billion for nothing.
Right.
He knew where the attention was going. But the point of the matter is that your people in your community, the ones that you're trying to reach, they're paying attention to Instagram. So you have to learn how to communicate on that platform. You're right. I completely agree that the principles will always be the principles. However, with social media, and this is by far the biggest mistake that I see everybody making, particularly chiropractors, is social media has changed the game, right? Because everyone's always concerned, and this is such a big principle, everyone's always so concerned about what do I say? What do I post? What do I have to, how do I do this? What nobody is talking about, and where all the leverage lies in this, is how do you listen? How do you pay attention? Right? Everybody knows that, and everyone knows how retargeting works now. And everyone knows that if you type something into Facebook, or if you click on somebody's posts, or you search something on Google, Facebook is going to start showing you ads. And everyone knows how that works and everyone's aware of it. However, in our practices, what we don't do and what we need to do is we need to look at what our practice members are doing on Instagram to get data, information, psychographics on what they're doing and what they actually care about, and then leverage our position to make chiropractic and what we can offer them to help them more important. That's the real leverage with this. Not likes, not follows, but really understanding the people who are coming into our practice one-on-one.
So with your own personal experience with Instagram, how long have you been on Instagram? And when you started off, what has changed? I know this is what your philosophy is now, but how has that changed over that time frame? I think that would help someone who's new to this or early in the process. Yeah, here's kind of where you've gotten to, but what did you go through to get to that point? And what were some of the lessons you learned along that way?
So I've only been, it's interesting, Mother's Day, which is not even, it's not even really been a year. I've been taking Instagram seriously for almost a year, which is like a drop in the bucket from like grabbing early real estate. So not much. Everything's gone really great. There's people DMing me all the time to make appointments, to ask questions. So it's been awesome. Lessons, that's the most important lesson. The biggest thing that I can tell you is like, we're so concerned about, likes and follows and comments. The most important thing is for you to learn how to create a piece of content that will get somebody to pay attention to you and eventually come into your practice. And the model is shifting, and they just changed their algorithm. We can talk more specifically about this. They changed it in February. So many people are on Instagram now that, again, this is why the intention is important. Instagram, much like Facebook, is switching to a model where your stuff is going to show up less and less unless you're really good, and they want you to start paying for it, which has always been hilarious to me, like how people get pissed when the algorithm changes. Oh, stupid Instagram. It's hard to get mad when they were helping you build your business for free before. Right? Like now they want some money and you're pissed. Like let's really think about that for a second here.
Well, and right? So from the perspective of, cost of advertising compared to other types of advertising, we've talked about this in regards to Facebook, and the pricing is ridiculous. I know personally, my Facebook ads account, which includes my Instagram ads, I might spend $300 to $600 a month, which is probably a lot for some people in chiropractic. But for me, again, given that your case lifetime value for us is, $2,500 to $3,500, really, it's ridiculous in terms of the amount that we have to spend to get the attention, and then to be able to, launch some different strategies to get those people to come into the practice.
Yeah. Yes. And of course it's interesting, right? As I'm sure that when we look at our ad spend for Facebook, of course the ad spend is getting more and more, and it'll continue to get more and more, especially because really big players like Pepsi and Coca-Cola and General Motors, they're not spending any money on Facebook advertising. They're still in the status quo of thinking that people are paying attention to television, which they're not. So when those guys jump onto Facebook, and then the price will go even more. And that's just marketing and business. That's the way that it works.
Which is really unbelievable that they haven't actually leveraged that.
Well, it's interesting. This goes back to what I'm learning about investing. Once the founder leaves these companies, it happened to Starbucks. So when Howard left, if you're not familiar with the history of Starbucks, when Howard Schultz left, the board of directors run the organization. And then it becomes more not about, creating this vision for coffee culture in America, like this rogue entrepreneur, Howard Schultz. It becomes more about protecting, the profits and the shareholders and what are they going to think? And then things get really safe and they don't want to take any risks.
Right. Yeah. Well, you think of, how can someone not be using, say, Instagram or Facebook advertising at this point? Not just price point wise, but again, you're talking about the attention in comparison to, a television commercial. And, you would assume they'd have experts involved in their marketing team. To me, it's unbelievable. But nonetheless, the point is it's advantageous for us because right now we can use Instagram and Facebook, and we can market, and we can pay to market on Instagram, and we can get it for a cheaper dollar. So if we're going to do that, Cratio, you're talking about, using it as a way to pull. Let's say you've been following, people in your community, following some of your practice members, or just people who fit your avatar. What information are you looking for? What are some of the real gems when you're scouring through Instagram? And how does that translate from, hey, I saw this is a great piece of data, to getting to the point where you actually create some of your own content about that?
Okay, that's a great question. And just so everyone heard me correctly, you need to be creating content, right? Whatever your productivity or whatever your output is right now, just do better, right? You don't have to post 7 times a day, but post. And again, I think it's important to talk about this now first. The way that the algorithm has changed, Instagram wants to drive more people to Instagram stories, and keep right now. So stories are really hot right now, and they want to keep not people away, but the feed has become less important. And the stories are huge. Stories have more active users a month just on Instagram stories than Snapchat has complete users on the entire platform. And that number is growing. So they want to, that's what they're trying to do. So again, you want to, it's two platforms when you break it down. You have the feed, which is more like the consistent data. And then if you're not familiar with stories is something that you post and then after 24 hours it disappears. So you really need to be doing both. The way that you do both is more of your like content that you want people to have forever, that's evergreen, you can post on your feed. And the stories are more like, here's what I'm doing right now. Right. So that I would just do that, post one story a day, post one feed thing a day, and just get in the habit of like storytelling on this platform. Now, to answer your question, I'll give you a great example. I followed a new practice member on Instagram the other day, because I just go through my list at the end of the day and I search people on Facebook and I search people on Instagram and I make sure that I'm following them. And then I just pay attention. Like I go through my stories once a day, and he was talking about, here was a perfect example. He was talking about how his shoulder hurt. I'm like, holy shit, I should probably enter into a conversation around what's happening with his shoulder. So I just asked him, hey, Matt, what's happening with your shoulder? And he told me, and then we had a conversation about it. And I was able to attach chiropractic care to how that could help and why that's important to him while he's rehabbing his shoulder. Right. It's just as simple as that.
Not to mention that obviously that's a potential avatar for you, or he falls within probably one of your avatars, and sharing that type of content is going to be valuable to other people. So it's not as if you're just getting a one-to-one with this, you're getting a one-to-many because of the fact that people follow you on social media. Leverage that content into material for other people to look at as well.
I think you brought up a really important mindset there. I think we need to think about this. And I love the way Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it. He talks about it like hand-to-hand combat. You need to really be concerned about the one-to-one. All the leverage is going to be one-to-one. In a world where noise is increasing and people are confronted with more and more, the way that you're going to get leverage and become important is to be the person who does reach out one-on-one and still have the time to do this. And if it sounds like I'm advocating that this takes a lot of time, you're absolutely right. This takes a lot of time. There's no hack. Right? Like, hey, I want to go to the CrossFit Games. This is going to take me a lot of time. Yes, it's going to take you a lot of time. Like, you want to have a big practice. You want to be successful at this. It's going to take you a lot of time.
Well, it makes me think of my day on Thursday. I had some time. So Thursday morning is administrative time. So time to work on marketing and other such things. And we had launched a promotion through Facebook, retargeting some of our people who had been watching some of our videos for the Fit Club. And we launched a 30-day free trial following their on-ramp program. And I had a bunch of opt-ins. I had a bunch of people on our email list opt in, or at least contact me back in order to get information and so on. So we started all these conversations. And if I look at my email sent folder on Thursday morning, over the 3 hours that I had to do administrative work, I sent over 40 emails. Right? And so for 40 emails, I don't have time for that. Well, I made time, but let me explain. So I sent 40 emails in 3 hours. And in those 3 hours, I added 7 new people to our upcoming on-ramp program and follow-up 30-day challenge, which we know in the last time I did this, we had 9 people in the on-ramp and 7 or 8 have become ongoing Fit Club members. So we're talking about a $10,000 return on my 3 hours of time, not to mention a couple memberships that I sold in that process. So you look at that, and I spent 3 hours, and the return on whatever that time investment was, and literally the $72 on my Facebook ad was $10,000, potentially $10,000. And right, it's like, I don't have time. You don't have time for what? You don't have time for success. You don't have time to be profitable. What do you have time for? To tool around doing it doesn't matter? Well, you're going to need to make time if you want to be successul in all of these areas, and especially in the social media platform.
I think one of the hidden gems that you just said there is you sent the emails. You, the doctor, right? There's no outsourcing this. Like, you are the voice, of your organization. Like, it is you. Every organization takes the culture and the values of its leader and its founder. So, it's you. Like, you're the one that has to, there's no outsourcing your social media. Like, I look at some of these companies that have these pre-canned posts. Nobody reacts to them. Nobody cares because it's a pre-canned post. You can tell. right? Like post your own, get your thumbs warmed up, get posting, start taking pictures, and like start interacting with people. Like this is you.
So
this is
we talked
the way
about
that the world is moving.
mining for data. We talked about leveraging that into content. One of the other strategies, Krisha, that I know you've used and you've got us on, and that's made a big difference so far in our local kind of business to business, is starting to follow other businesses. Talk a bit about your strategy for chiropractors locally, following other businesses, some of the mindset around that, because I think, again, naturally a lot of docs want to follow other people so they see their stuff, but that's not what it's about.
Sure. So let's rewind back to like our grandparents' time, and let's pretend that your grandfather or your grandmother was an entrepreneur and they owned, the local butcher, or they're the local dry cleaner. What they used to do is they used to know everybody in the vicinity, and it wasn't. They weren't trying to sell the fact that they were the local dry cleaner. Everybody knew that they were the local dry cleaner or the local butcher, and they would say hi to everybody and they would interact properly, and they would just be kind people. They would just say hi and they would smile, and they would have proper manners. Now, what social media has done is it's scaled that. So I don't have to walk around for business to business to be polite and to meet people. I can look them up and I can interact with them on social media. That's all that you have to do. There's no reason why you should not be searching every single business in your local area on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because Twitter it's a lot of leverage on Twitter, and interacting with those people on, their native platform, like weekly or daily, if you see their stuff. And it's just so you are top of mind. And so they know that you're the chiropractor, so that when somebody needs a chiropractor, they're like, you should go to this person because they are thinking of you. Right? Like it's sorry to tie everything together. It's exactly the principles that you were talking about. Like the shit that worked, 75 years ago in principle still works now. People need to know you. They need to like you. And then they will start sending you more people. And social media just made it scalable. You can do it in your basement now in an hour instead of 10 hours walking around to meet everybody.
So Krisha, can you share a case study of your own where you actually sent a message? What would that message sound like? Maybe be specific for people listening in so they can start to get their head around what this looks like and what was the outcome of that?
Sure. So I'm just trying to think of, I just did this yesterday, so I'm trying to think of an example. So beside us, there's a tanning studio. I think it's called Luxury Tanning Studio. So I searched, at Luxury Tanning Studio. I liked it. Here's all I did. I saw the first post. It was about sunshine and vitamin D. Holy shit. Who would have thought that sunshine and vitamin D are health related? So all I did was comment. I was like, yeah, vitamin D rocks. It's super healthy. I love it. That's it. That's all that I did. That was the comment of the post. She liked it and said, yes, I know. Perfect. That's an interaction. Right now, schedule time to do it every week. Right. So next Wednesday, it's Friday, so I did it on Wednesday, but next Wednesday I'll interact with another post. I'll find it. And I've added her now. So when I'm going through my stories, if something pops up that I find interesting and I can provide, here's the key, value to, not come make an appointment, you just comment like you're dealing with your friends. Like treat these people like they're your friends.
And so I know you've had many of these examples before. What does that look like in terms of, you talk about an example where someone actually eventually got to the point where they wanted to make an appointment with you. What was the length of time with the interaction? Was there an escalating conversation that happened? Did it take years or months? What did that look like? What can somebody expect if they are using this strategy?
Sure. I'll give you well, first of all, it varies. I just had a person here. I'll just go into my DM right now. I'll open up a message and I'll read it to you. I'm interacting. So I just literally, liked this person, Mike P. I won't give you the real name. He was training at the gym. Sorry. What happened was he followed me. I followed him back. Now what happens is because I follow him, his stories are showing up in the thing. So he posted a picture, like his son's around Ari's age, about 4 or 5 years old. He went to get a haircut. Kid is super cute. Here's my comment. Heart emoji. So cute. He responded, thumbs up. Thanks. Then he responded, might, and I'm reading verbatim, might need to come see you and see if you can fix me up. Okay. My response. Okay. Would love to help. And then that's the conversation. Like, it took literally a day for that to start to happen. For some people, they've been following along for 2 months. For some people, they've been following along for 5 years. Like, guys, this is the same thing that happens in your community. Somebody's going to make an appointment and they're going to say, oh my God, I've been getting your emails for 9 years, right? This is the conversation that you and Mike had about emailing people. Right? It's not that email is dead. Sure, there's less attention on email right now and people are interacting with it a little bit differently. But if your content's good and people are reading it and they're ready to make an appointment, it's the exact same principle. It's just to apply to a different platform.
Yeah. No, I agree. And to go back to just the email comment as a note to reinforce the email is not dead. When we did that 30-day trial at the Fit Club, the majority of new people taking me up on the trial and responding were actually from my email list. Now, we got a bunch of new leads from Facebook and Instagram, but the people who were ready to go were the people who were on my email list who get an email from me every single week. And then when I, drop this opportunity for them, 10 or 15 of them responded back, I'm in. And, there's huge value in building that list. So it goes back to this idea of having an overall strategy. And there's so many entry points into your funnel, and making sure that you understand through the marketing blueprint what each of them are, what the purpose of them are, and then addressing each one uniquely, because each one is its own platform. So the way you might speak on Facebook might be different from Instagram, might be different from how I send an email. And I think starting to get your head around that and then, implementing something that's consistent. And maybe talk a bit about that, Horatio, because I think one of the pitfalls here for docs is, hey, they're on Instagram, then they're on Facebook, and do I send an email? I think when it comes down to it, I think you have to figure out a strategy and then be consistent with it. Don't worry about perfect or setting off on this gold standard. I'm going to send an email every day. I'm going to post 7 times a day. I'm going to tweet once, every 2 hours. That's not going to work. You need to figure out what's going to work, but whatever it is, stick with it for an extended time frame.
I think, again, people will ask me, what platforms should I be on and how much should I do it? And the answer is all of them, all the time. Right? Like, that's really the answer. The more platforms, the more content, the more different ways people can interact with you. Obviously, that's the gold standard. However, like you said, it might not be realistic if you're just starting out. So the goal, like you have the conversation with the people coming into your practice, hey, should I just drop all the junk food and start eating healthy? Of course. That might not be realistic tomorrow, right? But that's still what we're striving for here at the end of the day. But yes, and again, you're absolutely right. Consistency is the king. Like with everything else in life, there's nothing different about this. You have to be consistent. The only time when what people are thinking, liking, and commenting about your posts is pay attention to what grabs their attention versus the ones that don't do so well. That's the only time when likes and comments and shares become important, because you could be onto something that people could understand with. The trick with that, though, is it doesn't mean because somebody didn't like, comment, or share that post wasn't important to a human being. Right? Like this is always the hard part. And respect to Mike, because Mike was the first person who brought this principle to mind when we were talking about, going to screenings and looking desperate at a screening. It's not the people that you interact with that it hurts. It's the people who walk by who are about to make an appointment with you that now are not going to make an appointment with you, right? So you don't know what goodwill is happening just because people aren't liking and interacting with your post. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it.
I think a good mindset and mantra for every entrepreneur is, and again, you can flirt with the numbers here, but I'd rather have you do 10% 100% of the time than 100% 10% of the time.
100%, 100% of the time. I totally agree.
And that's just, to me, that's it. I mean, you take every single aspect of health, business, entrepreneurship. I'd rather have you go to the gym once a week for 5 years than 4 times a week for a month. Right. It's just and again, the same is true here. So let's move this conversation to a more advanced piece. So let's say people are on Instagram. We'll focus on Instagram here, and they're getting good content out there. They're messaging back and forth, they're creating some interaction. The next piece is, you start to get into the paid side of things, and we've talked about this. You're going to have to pay to play here, and it's starting to happen more and more. I think that scares people. in terms of how do I create an ad? What does that look like? Where does that go? And this is why, going back to the last episode and maybe going and downloading the Ultimate Chiropractic Marketing Blueprint, so you can understand the flow of information, where you're trying to get people, where we're moving people towards, because not everybody is going to go content to appointment. So there has to be some, intermediate steps sometimes along the way. It's okay to have some offers, especially in my case with the Fit Club. We don't do as much with the chiropractic side for obvious reasons, or maybe not obvious. We don't want to devalue the care. So there's some strategies you can use there. But long story short, Horatio, what does it look like on the advertising side? We can focus on Instagram. What are some of the strategies? Where do you see this going? A lot of people may not do this right now, but let's get them thinking about it.
Sure. So, I mean, the strategy is the same, right? Like if you're doing a good job and people are interacting with your content, pay to have more people see your content. Like it's much more powerful when somebody on their own reaches out to you, sends you a message and says, hey, I want to come in and see you, versus, and again, I'm not saying don't do this. I'm saying what has statistically been better at creating a lifetime practice member. It's when they've been following you for a long time and they finally on their own, without any prompting or helping them, right, with like a gift certificate, they reach out and they say, yes, this is something that I want to do. So advertising side, I mean, you really have two ways to do this, which is creating goodwill and good content, which I think you should pay to play to have people see really good ads with you not asking them to do anything, right? Like let's remember that we're at a time now where people's BS meters is beyond sensitive and through the roof. And if you are constantly, and everyone has a friend or somebody who like starts a new MLM group and, those ridiculous posts that I'm surprised anybody responds to, doing something big, DM me for details. Like really, is that really going to work?
You want to make 10,000 K this week? DM me for details.
Exactly. Right. So people need to trust you. People need to see you. You need to show up. People need to know who you are. That's as simple as, it's Gary Vee's formula: jab, 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 as many jabs as possible. Right. And then the ask. Right. And so jab, pay to boost your best posts, the one that most people are interacting with. You don't have to change them. You're just providing goodwill content to your community. Every once in a while, you can ask them for a call to action. Hey, here's a gift certificate. If you're interested, if you think I can help you, here's a gift certificate. Let me help you. Hey, we're having Eat by Design. Who's interested in coming to check it out? You get to ask. The ask, that's what you're building value towards. You're building value towards asking them. Right. And then you pay to boost the ask. And that's it. It's not that complicated.
So on Instagram, and I'm notorious, and maybe this isn't the best way, but I just work through my Facebook ads manager account. So, I click off the Instagram box and it goes over there. I don't spend as much time paying attention as I probably should, but on an Instagram ad, people still can click through to a landing page. They can still click through to a blog post if it's paid for advertising, correct?
Yep. So what you'll see on the Instagram ad, and again, you'll see the same on a story or in the feed, wherever it shows up, it'll say learn more. Okay. And you click that and it'll take you, and again, make sure that your pages are mobile optimized. Mm-hmm. Like if you check your data, I guarantee you at least 60% or more on people. Like it's interesting that we're living through a time where like the laptop and like the desktop are disappearing, which is kind of crazy. But most of the people are searching you on their phone. Make sure it's optimized, and yes, it'll say learn more, and it'll take you to that page. Okay, great. So, Horatio, final thoughts on Instagram. We've talked about some strategy. We've talked about mindset. We've given people exactly what to do. So everybody listening in should have a pretty clear idea of, what this looks like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis using Instagram. What gem, what caveat would you give people going into this and starting this process? Be patient. Just that simple. Be patient. Be patient and work on being a little bit better, every day. And, even more important, like when nobody's listening or nobody's paying attention, it's really easy to get discouraged and to want to stop. So it's really important that you have your specific selfish reason that you're doing this. That's going to motivate you to keep doing this when it seems like nobody gives two craps. Yeah, that's
Well said, Cratio, and I know that's tough to do, especially when it comes to marketing, and flip this mindset for docs out there and get them playing the long game. So guys, I'll put in the show notes Cratio's Instagram handle so you can go and check that out. I'll also put it for Life by Design for Chiropractors. Maybe throw mine and Rochelle's and Mike's in there too if you want to check those out and see what we're doing. And guys, thank you so much for listening to the show, Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.